today, my name is Chimbroma and I'll be the one to take you on the JAMB Master Biology today. I'm a graduate from the University of Port Harcourt and I studied plant science and biotechnology for 4 years. This means that I am an expert in biology. When I take you on biology, there is no way you're gonna fail biology because I am an expert. All you have to do is learn, follow my instructions, read properly, listen to the class, take note of every important details, prepare yourself personally because your personal preparation is most important, and then that's all you need. Thank you. So today our first topic is going to be on living organism. If you follow the JAMB syllabus, this is the first topic on the JAMB syllabus, and in order for you to pass JAMB, you cannot just read randomly. You have to follow the syllabus. The syllabus is like your course outline or your scheme of work in secondary school, where your teachers show you exactly what you'll be learning each day or each week in the term. So that is what JAMB has done to make your reading easier. They created a syllabus for you to follow so that you can read in context for the examination. And under living organisms, we are going to be talking about the classifications of living organisms. Classification of living organisms. Now, the classification of living organisms is basically how organisms are being classified in the ecosystem. And this classification in biology is called taxonomy. So, in case of you see a question, classification of living organisms is called what? The answer is taxonomy. So taxonomy is basically defined as the classification of living organisms. Now, scientifically, in taxonomy, we have hierarchy in taxonomy, and those hierarchy is what we call the kingdom. We have the phylum, we have the class, we have the order, we have the family, we have the species, sorry, the genus first before species. We have the genus and we have the species. So this is the hierarchy in taxonomy. So living organisms are classified in biology. The classification is called taxonomy. The hierarchy of taxonomy is what we are seeing here. So the first is the kingdom. After the kingdom, we have the phylum or phyla. It can be phylum or phyla, but the main word is phylum. Although some people can use phyla, but we use phylum. So we have the kingdom, we have the phylum, we have the class, we have the order, we have the family, the genus, and the species. Now, it is important for you to note that in this system of classification, it is the genus and the species that form the scientific name or the botanical name of an organism. So I said it is the genus and the species that form the scientific name or the botanical name of organisms. Now, the scientific name is for animals. So in science, animals are called the names given to animals scientifically is called scientific name. While those given to plants is called the botanical name. Plants. So I said that this is the arrangement or the hierarchy of classification in science. Then the genus and the species is what makes up either the scientific name or the botanical name of organisms. The scientific name is used for animals, like human beings. Human beings, we are called Homo sapiens, right? Rat is called Ratus ratus. So the scientific name is for animals, and for botanical names given to plants. For instance, we have mango, mangifera, indica, and all of those. So botanical name plants, scientific name animals. So we are going to be talking about the kingdoms. I'm going to be breaking down the kingdoms for you to understand. I'm breaking down the kingdoms for you to understand. So under the kingdom, we have specifically 5 important kingdoms we consider in biology, and they include, we have the Monera, kingdom Monera, we have the protists, kingdom Protista, we have the fungi, kingdom Fungi, we have the plant, kingdom Plantae, and we have the animals, kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So these are the 5 kingdoms we talk about in biology. We are going to begin with kingdom Monera. So Monera, example of Monera, we basically have bacteria and blue-green algae. Now there is a cheat code for you to understand this. Now when you see questions, what organisms are Monera, you don't have to panic. All you have to do is know an example of an organism in each of these kingdoms. When you know one organism and you can identify the organism, you can tell the characteristics of that organism can represent any of this kingdom. So whenever you see a question in JAMB, you don't have to panic. Once you know an example, just like Monera, we have bacteria and blue-green algae. Once you know an example, which is bacteria, and you can tell the characteristics of bacteria, you can use that idea to answer any question under Monera. So you don't have to cram, oh, Monera, it is Monera. No, just understand that example of Monera is bacteria, and then you can tell the characteristics of bacteria. You'll be able to identify any characteristics under Monera, same as other kingdoms. So another cheat code in biology is try not to cram biology. If you cram biology, you forget, because JAMB itself is pressure. Once you enter the exam hall, the system can give you pressure. So once you cram before you enter the exam hall, once you are under pressure, once you are pressurized, you can forget. And that's some students that fail JAMB, it's not because they are not courageous or because they don't read, it's because they cram. So when they cram and they're under pressure, they forget. Most times after the exam, you not remember. But when you understand, you can, even when there's pressure, because you have understood what you are doing, you can be able to identify questions and know the right answer. So we'll go over to bacteria and blue-green algae. Now, bacteria is a microorganism. Bacteria. I'm going to clean this so that I can have space. Okay. Bacteria. We're looking at kingdom Monera first. Kingdom Monera. And I said that example, we have bacteria and blue-green algae. Now there are characteristics of kingdom Monera that you must note, and one of them is that they are microscopic, which means that you cannot see them with your naked eye. You need to see them with the aid of a microscope. Another characteristic is that they are prokaryotic. Prokaryotic means that they do not have an organized nucleus. The nucleus is an essential organelle in any living organism, right? When we get to different organisms in the cell, I'm going to explain what a nucleus is and I'll outline all the components of a cell. So just know that bacteria under kingdom Monera, they are prokaryotic because they do not have an organized nucleus. Organized nucleus. They lack organized nucleus and cell membrane. They do not have an organized nucleus and cell membrane. Another characteristic is their reproduction. They do not carry out sexual reproduction. They carry out asexual reproduction through the aid of binary fusion. Remember when I talked about last week when I was teaching, I told us about reproduction as the characteristics of living organisms, and I said that there are two types of reproduction. We have both the sexual and the asexual reproduction. And I said that asexual reproduction involves one parent. So bacteria do not need male and female. They only carry out asexual reproduction, which means only one parent is involved, and that parent splits to give you two daughter cells. So the method in which this bacteria or blue-green algae can give you two daughter cells or can multiply themselves to produce more offspring is through the aid of asexual reproduction, called the binary what? Fission. I said, sorry, it's binary fission, not fusion. Binary fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N. So that's binary fission. So bacteria also, their cell wall. Another characteristic is to notice their cell wall. Their cell wall lacks cellulose. Now, cellulose is a component that is in the cell wall, but in bacteria they lack it. What they have is they are made up of polysaccharide. Marker, let me get another marker, please. Sorry. They are made up of polysaccharide and amino acid. And amino acid, yes. So they are made up of polysaccharide and amino acid. Now, what is polysaccharide? Polysaccharide is a complex carbohydrate. Remember when they taught us about carbohydrate in secondary school, they would say, we have monosaccharide, disaccharide, and polysaccharide. So polysaccharide is the complex carbohydrate. So the cell wall of kingdom Monera, which is bacteria and blue-green algae, it does not contain cellulose, but no cellulose, but polysaccharide and amino acid. So these are the important things we need to note about organisms that are under the kingdom Monera. They are microscopic, which means that we cannot see them with our natural eyes. We need the aid of a microscope to see them. They are prokaryotic, which means that they lack organized nucleus and cell membrane. And then the cell membrane. And then we have reproduction. Reproduction is through binary fission, which is an asexual mode of reproduction. And the cell walls, their cell wall lack cellulose, but they contain polysaccharide and amino acid. And then the mode of nutrition, which is very important, nutrition. Nutrition. Now, bacteria can either be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Yes, so cell membrane or nuclear membrane. Either you call it cell membrane. Now, there's something that JAMB does. Because they know that students are familiar with cell membrane, they will now put something like nuclear membrane so that you can be confused. But note that it is either called a cell membrane or it's called a nuclear membrane. So if you see a question like animals or organisms under kingdom Monera, they contain dash, and you see nuclear membrane, note that it is they do not contain what's nuclear membrane. Sorry, nuclear or cell membrane. So cell membrane or nuclear membrane, they mean the same thing for this, for the second characteristics, which I said that they do not have an organized nucleus and nuclear or cell membrane. So now for nutrition, animals or organisms under kingdom Monera, their mode of nutrition is autotrophic or heterotrophic. And I said in our last class that autotrophic mode of nutrition means that an animal or an organism can produce its own food. They can manufacture their own food. Yes. So I said that autotrophic organisms can manufacture their own food. Manufacture their food by themselves. And I say that heterotrophic organisms are organisms that cannot manufacture their own food, but depend on another organism to survive, which is autotroph. They cannot manufacture their own food. So bacteria can either be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Sorry, PHIC. Heterotrophic. So the next kingdom we are going to be looking on we are going to be looking at is Protista. I'm going to be wiping it off. I'll wipe it off. I hope you grasped that. If you have any question, you can ask me. I'm here to answer your questions. So the next kingdom is the Protista. Protista. Right? Protista. An example here, we have Euglena. Euglena. We have Euglena. So yes, under the kingdom Protista, we have organisms like Euglena. Just know that kingdom Protista are organisms that are free living, microorganisms that are free living. We have Euglena, we have Amoeba, the shapeless organism. We have Paramecium, yeah. So under kingdom Protista, one thing that we should understand here is that they are unicellular. Unicellular, UNICELLULAR, that unicellular. Let me make it bolder. Unicellular organisms. I forgot to mention, under kingdom Monera also, they are also unicellular. And I said in our former class, the class we had last week, that organisms that have one cell are called what? Unicellular organisms. While organisms that have multiple cells are called multicellular organisms. Now, unicellular organisms means that they have one cell. It means that Amoeba is a cell, Paramecium is a cell, Euglena is a cell, bacteria is a cell, blue-green algae is a cell. So unicellular organisms are organisms that have just one cell. Multicellular organisms have what? Multiple cells, just like human beings. We are made up of millions and billions of cells. So note that. The next one is that now under Protista they are eukaryotic organisms. Now remember that kingdom Monera were what? Prokaryotic, which means that they do not have organized nucleus and nuclear membrane. But now when it comes to Protista, they are more developed, they are more advanced. Just like for instance, now you have a child in the womb that is just forming. The first week they are what? From an embryo. So that's how it is. So now remember, kingdom Monera, they were not prokaryotic, they were not at this level, they were not advanced. But now the kingdom Protista, they are more advanced. Now they are eukaryotic organisms, which means that they have organized nucleus. And nuclear membrane. So when you hear the word eukaryotic, just know that they have what? Organized nucleus. The next thing to note is that their mode of movement. Now, they move by Euglena filaments. Sorry, flagella, not filaments. Flagella. Amoeba, the movement of amoeba is called an amoeboid movement. Amoeboid movement. Then we have the Paramecium that moves by cilia. Yes. So under movement of Protista, kingdom Protista, right? The mode of movement, we have flagella, we have amoeboid movement, and we have cilia. Now look at the example. Euglena has flagella. Amoeba, the movement of amoeba is called amoeboid movement. Then Paramecium moves by what? Cilia. Now flagella is something like this, is long like this. You see something like this, flagella. Cilia is like this, Small, small. You see small, 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 small hair. Small, 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 small hair. That's how cilia is. I will show you the diagram of this so that you can have, you know, a full understanding of how these movements, the mechanism for movements, or the material for movements, how they really look like. Another thing you should note about this kingdom protista is that they reproduce. Reproduction, which is by asexual, some asexual and some sexual. Yeah. So under the kingdom protista, some of the organisms here reproduce by asexual means, and some of them reproduce by what? Sexual means. And the asexual means of reproduction is called mitosis. Mitosis. And sexual is called fusion of gametes. Fusion of gametes. So yes, remember that in Kingdom Monera, I told you guys that reproduction is strictly by what? Asexual, and is carried out by what? Binary fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N. Now in the protista, they carry out, some organisms carry out asexual, some organisms carry out sexual. Now under the asexual mode of reproduction, the means is mitosis, M-I-T-O-S-I-S, mitosis. Under the sexual, we have the fusion of gametes. Now remember that I said that asexual, only one parent is involved. When we look at cell broadly, I will show you mitosis and the various steps that are involved in mitosis. I said that asexual means that one parent is involved. One parent will divide, will split two daughter cells. But in the fusion of gametes, which is by sexual reproduction, two parents will come together, their gametes will be fused to give you the two daughter cells. It means that the female gamete is involved and the male gamete is also what? Involved. Go on to the next. Another thing about them is, we have the nutrition. Nutrition, we have autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic and heterotrophic. Now, euglena is one organism that have both animal and plant characteristics. It has both animal and plant characteristics. So, in the kingdom protista, they feed by both autotrophic mode of, which means they can manufacture their own food, or they can feed on other organisms. They can depend on other organisms to survive. So we are going to be considering euglena because it is one organism here that is very important because it has both animal and both plant function. So let's look at euglena as an animal and as a plant. Remember, please try to understand, but don't cram. Biology is sweet when you understand it. So we look at euglena. Remember that euglena is an example of what? Protista. Kingdom protista. Under kingdom protista, or euglena is under kingdom what? Protista. We are looking at euglena. Now, euglena, I think I should draw it so that we can have a mental picture of it. Please forgive my drawing. I'll give you euglena. So this is it. It has a flagella, right? Okay. Yes. This is the nucleus. Nucleus. This is L. This is the nucleus. This is the contrital vacuole. Then there are I want you to just have, because you know JAMB, there's something JAMB does. They can give you a diagram like this and tell you to recognize the label. They can give you something like this and be like, this is I, this is I, and tell you this part of the euglena is called what. So that's why I want to give you the diagram so that you will know. Flagella. So that you will know. Sorry. Flagella, flagellum is the same thing. Flagellum or flagella. So this is the flagella. It has something here. This place now that is here is the reservoir. The reservoir. Then this is the stigma. I told you that it has both animal and plant characteristics. That's why we have to look at it, and JAMB usually set it because of this particular characteristic. Euglena has plant and animal characteristics. This is why JAMB, they always set something like this so that it can confuse students, but when you know it, you have known it for life. Oh. So this is it. I'm drawing it for you so that you can see it, understand it, and not forget it. So yes, you are supposed to have your biology textbook so that you know you can also read more. This is the chloroplast. This chloroplast thing, remember that in biology we were taught that remember that in biology we were taught that plant is green because it contains chlorophyll. Plant is green. Plant is green because of the chlorophyll. Now this chlorophyll is a pigment that makes plants green. Now plant is green because it contains what? Chlorophyll. Now what is responsible for the chlorophyll is what is called the chloroplasts. Chloroplasts. Yes. So the green pigment of a plant is what? Chlorophyll. What is responsible for chlorophyll is what? Chloroplast. So in case of you see in JAMB, the green pigment in plant is called dash. This is the answer, chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is resting. What brings about chlorophyll is what? The chloroplast. So sometimes they can even say the green pigment in plant is called dash. They can put chloroplast, or they put chlorophyll. So this is the answer, chlorophyll or what? Chloroplast. So chlorophyll bring about the green pigment of plant, and chlorophyll is what brings about the chlorophyll. Like, how do I say it now so that we can understand? Just like this is a marker. This marker is black, is a black marker. What makes it black is the ink. That is what is happening there. So see this thing as a green plant. It's green, right? Just like the marker is black. Now assume it's a green plant. Now the plant is green because of the what? Chlorophyll. Now what is making the chlorophyll is what is called chloroplast. So this is diagram of a euglena or euglena. Now I say that euglena has both plant and animal characteristics, right? So we are going to be looking at euglena first as a plant. We are going to be looking at euglena as a plant. As a plant. So note, the plant characteristics of euglena is that it contains chloroplasts. Contains chloroplasts. Yes. Now this chlorophyll or chloroplast in plants is what makes it effectively carry out photosynthesis. I told us in our last class that plant is an autotrophic plants carry out autotrophic mode of nutrition, and that autotrophic mode of nutrition is enhanced by the chlorophyll or the chloroplast. So euglena can carry out autotrophic nutrition because it contains chlorophyll or chloroplast. So euglena contains chlorophyll. It stores starch. Storage of starch through perinoid. So yes, now carbohydrates is stored as starch in plants. Plants store carbohydrate as starch, right? Us human beings or animals, we store it as what? Glycogen. So plants store carbohydrate as starch. So euglena as a plant, it stores carbohydrate as starch through an organism, through the pyrenoid, which is like an organ through which it stores the pyrenoid. An organelle, rather. So another characteristic of euglena is that it carries out autotrophic mode of nutrition because of the chloroplast. Now remember that I said in our former class that autotrophic is also known as holophytic. Autotrophic or what? Holophytic. Yes. So autotrophic is also known as what? Holophytic mode of nutrition. So autotrophic is what? Holophytic. And I say that autotrophic means that the organism can manufacture their own food. So euglena can manufacture its own food because of it contains chloroplast, which is the green pigment of a plant. And I say that euglena is also a plant and also what? An animal. Now I say that autotrophic nutrition is also called holophytic. Autotrophic or holophytic. So we are going to the animal. Euglena as an animal. Things to note is that it carries flagella for movements. Flagella. Flagella or flagellum. Sorry. For movements. The next thing to note is that the contractile vacuum, look at it here, I drew it, contractile vacuum, is for excretion. So this contractile vacuum I drew here is responsible for the what? Excretion, the removal of waste products. Removal of waste products. This pellicle I drew here, this outer body, look at it, pellicle, is for flexibility. Pellicle, the marker. Let me get another marker. Pellicle for flexibility. So these are the characteristics of euglena as an animal. Now lastly, euglena as an animal carry out heterotrophic nutrition or holozoic. Now I said that one characteristic of a plant is that plants are what? Autotrophic. And in the plant characteristics of euglena, I said that euglena carry out what? Autotrophic nutrition. Now, when sunlight is absent, in the absence of sunlight, euglena will carry out autotrophic nutrition or holozoic. So we are going to note that number one, autotrophic. I'm wiping this off so we can see. So I'm saying that autotrophic is the same thing as holophytic, and I'm saying that heterotrophic is the same thing as what? Holozoic. Yes. So autotrophic, the same thing as holophytic. Heterotrophic is the same thing about holozoic. So the next thing we are going to be considering is kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi. Now, example, we have mushroom and rhizopus. Now, kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi. We have mushroom and we have rhizopus. So we are going to be considering the characteristics of organisms that are in the kingdom of kingdom fungi, and one of them is that they are eukaryotic mode of nutrition. So they are eukaryotic. Eukaryotic means that they have nucleus, 3 nucleus. Not nutrition, please. That was an error. 3 nucleus. Another one is that they store food as glycogen. Storage of food as glycogen. Another characteristics is this. They are both unicellular and multicellular. They contain chitin instead of cellulose. So kingdom fungi, example, I said we have mushroom and rhizopus. And I'm saying that under kingdom fungi, one of the characteristics is that they are eukaryotic, which means that they have 3 nucleus. They store their food as glycogen. Some are unicellular, which means that some are single cell some contain multiple cells. Now they are composed of chitin instead of cellulose. Now one thing I'm going to say to every one of us is that we need to get a biology textbook so that after the class you can go back and read in-depthly for you to understand better and for you to be able to answer the past questions, because these questions will be what is going to prepare you for the JAMB examination. So when you go back, please read in-depthly. We are going to be talking about the kingdom Plantae. This is kingdom Plantae is actually a very broad kingdom. Very broad kingdom. But it's not up to the animals, right? So Plantae, the plant kingdom, they have 3 divisions in the plant kingdom. And these divisions will include Thylophyta. This was what I was trying to explain in the last class. Under Thylophyta, we have the red, the brown, and red algae, right? Thylophyta. The next one we have Bryophyta. Under Bryophyta, the example we have mosses and liverworts. Mosses and liverworts. Liverworts. Then we have the true plants, which is called which is under the division of Trichophyta. And under this Trichophyta, we have this Trichophyta, they are also called vascular plants. Under Trichophyta, we have what we call pteridophytes. R-I-O-D, pteridophytes, pteridophyta, and spermatophyta. Now this is the easiest way for you to understand this division. Now under the plant division, we have what? Under the plant kingdom, plant is a kingdom, we have division. And these divisions include Thylophyta, Bryophyta, and Trichophyta. Now the Thylophyta are the algae, which is the red, the brown. I wrote red twice, sorry. I wrote red twice. It's supposed to be green, yeah, not red. Yeah. Green algae. Green algae. So Thylophyta include red, brown, and green algae. Then the Bryophyta, we have mosses and liverworts. Then we have the Trichophyta, which is called vascular plants. They are called vascular plants because they are true plants. They are true plants. They have what we call true stem, leaves, and roots. Yes, true stem. They are called vascular plants because they have true stem, leaves, and roots. Unlike Thylophyta and Bryophyta. So this, when you do it like this is the easiest way for you to remember it. That in plant kingdom they are divided into 3, which is Thylophyta, Bryophyta, and Trichophyta. Now under Trichophyta we have the Pteridophyta and the Spermatophyta. I'm going to break them down for us to understand. But I don't want to take up this diagram so that you can write it down on your notes and understand it properly. So I will try to economize this part of the board for us to understand better. Now, under the Thylophyta, they have some characteristics. I'll be giving us just a few of them. Thylophyta. Number one, they are microscopic plants. It means that you cannot see them with your naked eye. Another characteristic is that some of them are unicellular, some of them are multicellular, which means that some have one cell and some of them have multiple cells. Another one is that they are aquatic. Those plants that grow on water, any plant that grows on water is called an aquatic plant. So we go to Bryophyta. They are multicellular green plants. Multicellular. Means that they have plenty cells. Unlike Thylophyta that have both multicellular and unicellular, they have many cells and they are green plants, right? Another characteristic here is that here they are strictly aquatic. Here they are either aquatic or terrestrial. Which means that they can be found in water or they can be found on land for Bryophyta. So let's go over to Trichophyta, which is the complex in the plant kingdom. Because I said that they are vascular plants, but they are divided into what? Pteridophyte and spermatophyte. So let's go into that quickly. Just like I was saying before we began the class, that you cannot just learn biology and go and sleep. When you read biology, when you learn biology, you have to go back. You have to go back and then look at it again and again for you to understand it very well, so that it can stick to your mind. You know, what you look at over and over and over again, it sticks to your mind. What you practice, you remember. Just like the way we can easily remember songs. You remember songs because you know your mind, you have let your mind feed on it. That's the same thing you are supposed to do here. As we are learning now, grab it, write it down. After the class, go back, sit down. After you have eaten, know when you eat like this, your mind will not be fresh. When you have eaten, you cannot sit down, look at it again. Not with hungry stomach. When you look at it again, you will understand better. When you practice it over and over and over again, it sticks better to your mind. The way you just hear a bit of a song and you remember the song, is this one, all of you that know Shani Poppy, the way you sing Shani Poppy song, that's the way. Because you have let your mind feed on it, that's why you can sing it. Now let your mind feed on biology, living organisms, so that on the day of JAMB, when you see any question, you just answer it sharp. You know, to I've forgotten. So we are going back to the words kingdom plants here, and we're looking at the spermatophytes, which are the vascular plants under Trichophyta. Under Trichophyta, we have pteridophytes. We have pteridophytes. Pteridophyte, pteridophyte, and spermatophyta. Now, under pteridophytes, example, we have fern. Yeah. Spermatophyta is now divided into two again, which is the what? Angiosperm and gymnosperm. Don't worry, I'll break it down again for you to understand. So firstly, remember I said that plant has 3 divisions. Under kingdom plant, we have 3 divisions: Tylophyta, Bryophyta, and Trichophyta. The 3 divisions of plant kingdom. Now, under that plant division now, that is Trichophyta, they are now divided into 2 again, which is Pteridophyta and Spermatophyta. Now, under Spermatophyta, we now have Angiosperm and what? Gymnosperm. So yes. So example of Pteridophyta, we have fern. Now this fern, they are multicellular and vascular green plants. They have stem, they have root, and they have leaf. So they are green plants too. So we are looking at this number 1, fern. I said that number 1, they are what? Multicellular. Means that they have multiple cells. They are non-flowering, which means that they do not produce flowers. They do not produce flowers. Another thing about this pteridophyte is that they do not produce flowers, so they cannot produce seeds. They do not produce flowers, hence they do not do what? Produce what? They do not produce seeds, right? They reproduce sexually by spores. So their reproduction is by what? Spores. Spore from spore. Reproduction is by spore. Reproduction. By spore. They reproduce by spore. So we'll go over to the Spermatophyta. And I think that under Spermatophyta we have what? Angiosperm and what? Gymnosperm. Now, Angiosperm and Gymnosperm, one major difference between them is that this is a non-flowering plant. Non-flowering vascular plant. Their seeds they are not enclosed. Seeds not enclosed. Their seeds are not enclosed, unlike the angiosperm. So gymnosperm do not produce flowers, and their seeds are not enclosed. But angiosperm, they produce flowers, and their seeds are what? And their seeds are enclosed. So let's take down the characteristics of spermatophytes. Under spermatophyte, the characteristics is that they are seed producing. They have well developed tissues. Well developed tissues. Another one is that I said it now. They have true, that's why they are called vascular plants, because they possess true stem, roots, and leaves. Leaves. Number 4, sexual reproduction. Then number 5, habitat, terrestrial organism. Means that they are only found on land. They are not mainly found on land. They are mainly found on land. They are mainly found on what? On land. So I say that in Pteridophyta example we have fern, right? And I said that fern is a vascular green plant and does not produce flower, does not produce seed, and then they are found on land and also in water. Fen, found in land and water, aquatic and terrestrial. So fen is both found in water and on land. So this is it for the plants. So we go over to the division of spermatophyta, which is the angiosperm and gymnosperm. I already told us the difference, the major difference between the both of them. These gymnosperm now, they don't produce flowers. Although they have seed, but they don't produce flowers. Any tree that you see, like a vascular tree, means that a tree must be woody. What I mean is this: a tree must be woody. We not think about the way wood is. We know the way orange tree is. Orange tree, like the tree is woody, exactly. So that's what makes a tree a tree. Any tree, for you to call anything a tree, it must be woody. So these spermatophyta rather, they are made up of angiosperm and gymnosperm. They are divided into angiosperm and gymnosperm. And these gymnosperm, they are vascular plants, which means that they are trees of vascular plants that do not produce seeds. So you can see a tree that do not produce flower, not seed. They have seed, but their seeds are not enclosed, do not produce flowers. So this angiosperm, they have flowers and seed. Angiosperm has flowers and seed. So any vascular plants, trio that you see that have flower and have seed, it means that it is what? An angiosperm. And it is what? A spermatophyte. And a spermatophyte should what? Have through stem, through roots, and through leaves. Now under gymnosperm, they have plants under spermatophyte. They have through stem, through roots, and through leaves. But they do not produce flowers. So any tree or any plant that you see that have developed stem, you can see the stem developed, you can see the roots well developed, you can see the leaves well developed, but they don't have seed enclosed. That means you can see their seeds are not covered with something, and they do not have flowers. It means that they are what? Gymnosperm. But any tree now that you see that has flowers and their seeds are covered, seeds is covered, it is what? Angiosperm. This is the simplest way for you to identify them. Let me break it down more for you people to understand. I know that when I was learning this thing at first in secondary school, it was complicated for me. So we say that plant has 3 divisions. Kingdom plant here. Has 3 divisions, which are Tylophyta. And other Tylophyta, we have green, red, and brown algae. We have bryophytes. We have liverworts and mosses. These 2, we don't consider them true plants, although they are plants, because they don't have true stem, leaves, and roots. They are not developed plants. But the third one is called spermatophytes, spermatophyta, and they are divided into 2, which is angiosperm and gymnosperm. Now, this angiosperm, now this is where we now have monocots. and dicot. So this is the easiest description of what everything I've been saying. That under the plant kingdom we have Theriophyta, Bryophyta, and Spermatophyta. Under Theriophyta we have green, red, and brown algae. Now these algae, they are not considered as true plants because they are not vascular, which means that they don't have developed roots, develop stem, and develop leaves. Now this Theriophyta, they can be found in water and they can also be found on land. Now let me give you an example. Have you seen a wall that has those green pigment on it, those green things on it? Like, you know, the way we on the streets now, you see a house, those houses now have green things. Those green things are like this on the wall. Those green things are algae. Yes, they are green algae. So now that algae you are seeing on that wall, that thing is a plant too. But they are not considered true plants because if you look at it, you don't have a stem, you don't have a leaf, and you don't have a root. It's just there on the wall. That thing on the wall is carrying out photosynthesis. It's green in color. Most of them are green in color. Now there are times when you go to a water, maybe a stagnant water or something, you see those green things on it. Those green things, that's it. Sometimes if you look at it, it's moving. That thing you are seeing is a green algae. It's a plant under Theriophyta, but you cannot call it a true plant because it does not have a root, it does not have a stem, and it does not have leaves on it. That's why we don't call them true plants. Now this particular phylum or phyla under the plant kingdom, they carry out nutrition, which is by, I told you, it's either autotrophic or heterotrophic. It means that they can produce their own water, their own food. They are either found on water or they are found on land. Just like the one I told you that is on the wall. It's a wall, terrestrial kingdom. On the water, the one that is found in water, it is what water kingdom, which is aquatic. Now we go to the bryophytes. These bryophytes, they are multicellular green plants. They are basically found on land, terrestrial. Now we go over to this Spermatophyta. This Spermatophyta is now divided into angiosperm and gymnosperm. And I told us that this angiosperm now, they are flowering plants. And they have enclosed seed. This means that their seed is covered. And enclosed seed. There is no space for me to write. Let me write it here. Enclosed seed. Now, under this gymnosperm, they are not flowering plants, not flowering green plants, not flowering vascular plants, rather, not flowering vascular plants. And their seeds are not enclosed. Simply put, now these spermatophytes are also called vascular plants. Why? Developed stem, leaf, and what? Roots. Simple. So it's what? It's simple, right? There's nothing there. Just take a look at this, the board. These two, Theriophyta, Bryophyta, they are non-vascular plants. Non-vascular. Because they don't have true, they are not true plants. No developed stem, leaves, and roots. So this is just what I've been trying to explain since for us. This is what I've been trying to explain for us. Go back to your textbook, look at it again, compare, understand. So this is it for the plant kingdom. And we have, I said that the angiosperm, we have monocot and dicot. We already know that monocot is what? One seed plant. And then we have the dicot. So we are going over to the kingdom Animalia, right? Kingdom Animalia is broad though. It is broad. Let me wipe the board. We have kingdom Animalia. They are divided into two. We have the vertebrata and the invertebrata or invertebrates. Let me write it again. Kingdom Animalia. We have what? Vertebrates and invertebrates. I'll be listing out the vertebrates and invertebrates for us. So under the vertebrates, if I list it here, it's not going to be enough because they are big, right? So I'll start with invertebrates. Under the invertebrates, we have this marker. We have Polyphera. Example, we have sponges. Can we see this? Number 2, we have Colentrata. Looking at the marker. Sorry. We have Colentrata. We have Hydra. We have we have what we call the PLATYHELMINTHESE. Example, we have the worms, right? I'm looking at this Colentrata. We have flatworms. The next one we have nematodes. We have the roundworms. We have the next one, mollusca. That's my favorite because I love snail a lot. Mollusca. Example, we have snail. Then we have the next one, annelids. We have earthworm. Then we have Arthropod. I think I'll have to bend so that I can write it here. Arthropod. Crayfish. Or let's go with prawn. We have prawn. Basically insects. Basically insects. So instead of me to, you know what? I think we can see this part of the board, right? We can see this part of the board. So something I want to tell us now. Arthropods. We have insects. Another insect, we have cockroach. We have crustacean. Example, we have crayfish. We have crab, prawn, etc. Then we have the arachnid. We have spider. Then we have the myriapoda. Example, we have centipede. Centipede, millipede. So these are under arthropods. So this invertebrata, under kingdom Animalia, we have vertebrate and invertebrate. So these are the class of invertebrate. We have the Polyphera, we have the Coleopterata, we have the Plihelminthes, we have the Nematoda, we have the Mollusca, we have the Annelids, and we have the Arthropoda. Now under the Arthropoda, these are the subgroup. These are the examples of arthropods. We have insects, cockroach, any insect you can think about is under arthropod. We have the crustaceans, which are the crayfish, the crab, the prawn, crayfish, crab, prawn. We have the arachnid. We have spider. Yeah. We have the myriapoda, which is the centipede and the millipede. So you can note this down. Now under the vertebrata, vertebrates, we have mammals. We have pieces. Looking at how do I write this for you to see? Fishes. Now another thing I want you to notice is that vertebrates means that they have backbone. Vertebrates, backbone is present. Invertebrates lack so vertebrates have backbone, invertebrates lacks backbone. So you know what, let me list the vertebrates up. Right, let me list it. It's still the same thing. Vertebrate, I think we can see this part of the board, right? So vertebrates, we have mammals, we have fishes, mammals. Human beings are mammals now. Fishes, example, we have fishes. We have the aves, which are the birds. We have the reptile, REPTILIA, reptile. Then we have the amphibians. Amphibia. Reptile, example, we have lizard. Amphibians, toad, frog. So I think you can see it. So this is it. Kind of broad, right? So yes, under the kingdom Animalia, we have two, vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrate means that the backbone is present, just like in humans we have the backbones. Then in invertebrates means that they lack backbones, they don't have backbones, right? So now we go over to the examples of vertebrates. We have mammals, example, we have humans, we have monkeys, mammals, those animals that are considered mammals, they are here. Then we go to species. These species now, they are also fishes. We have cartilaginous fishes, we have bony fishes and cartilaginous fishes, right? We go to aves. These aves are birds. They're reptile. We have lizard. Under reptile we have amphibians. So these are the divisions under the kingdom Animalia. So I think you must have noted it down, right? So this is the subdivision under kingdom Animalia. I'm waiting for you to write. So yeah. So I think we are done with this, right? So this is what classification looks like in biology. This is what it looks like in biology. Classification in biology. This is what it looks like. Yeah. So that is that on that. We are going to be looking at so we are done with that, right? So we are going to be looking at the forms of living organisms. This means that the forms in which living organisms exist, we have number one, free living. Number two, we have as colony. Number three, we have as filament. So this is how organisms exist. Number four, part of a cell. So living organisms exist as free, colony, filament, or part of a cell. Example of free living, we have amoeba, paramecium, under colony we have volvox, right? Filaments, spirogyra. As part of a cell, we have different cells in the body. We have different cells in the body, right? And even in plants, we have the human cheek, the cheek cell. and so on. So these are the forms in which organisms can exist, either as free living or a colony, a filament, or as part of a cell. So we go over to the structure and components of organelles in the cell. I said I was going to give it, right? I said I was going to make mention of the structures we found in the cell, the organelles that are present in the cell, and their functions. So I listed kingdom Animalia before, right? So what is going to happen is this. Let me write it clearer so you can see it. I'm going to send you everything necessary for you. Everything that is necessary for you. That's why I'm here. So I said I was going to talk about the organelles in the cell and their function. And their function. Alright. So the first is the nucleus. We have the nucleus. So, number one organelle you find in the cell is the nucleus. I'm going to send you the image of the animal and the plant cell so that you can see what all these what they look like. So the first thing is the nucleus, right? Now the nucleus controls the life of the cell. It controls the life activity that goes on in the cell, and it stores the hereditary material, which is DNA. So the nucleus is what carries the DNA. The nucleus carries the word DNA. It controls life in the cell, and it stores the hereditary material, which is what the DNA. The next thing we look at is the cytoplasm. Now the cytoplasm now organelles are suspended, which means that if this is a cell, right? Let's assume this is a cell. Everywhere inside this cell is the cytoplasm. It means that the cytoplasm houses everything. If this is a cell, of course, this is going to be the cell wall. It's going to be the cell wall. It might have a membrane or not. The second one is going to be the membrane. It can be either present or absent, right? So now, inside this cell wall, inside the cell membrane, right? So let's assume that it has a membrane. So this is a cell wall. The first one is the cell wall. The second is the cell membrane. It means that this place where the nucleus is and other organelles like the Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum. This place now that everything is suspended inside is what? Cytoplasm. So it means that if this is a cell wall, this is a cell membrane, the second one, membrane. This place now that the nucleus is inside and other organelles is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm, let's say that it's the one that carries it. Other organelles are suspended inside of it. So that is what the cytoplasm is. Then we'll go to the next one, which is the chromosome, right? Number 3, chromosome. Now we have the chromosome. The chromosome, remember that I said that the nucleus carries, the nucleus is what controls life activity in the cell, and it stores the DNA. So the nucleus stores the hereditary material, which is DNA. Now the chromosome, it contains DNA. So it means that chromosome, DNA is inside the chromosome. Let's assume if this is a chromosome, right? DNA is inside. So if this is a chromosome, this DNA now is inside the chromosome, and any hereditary material is inside the DNA. So the DNA is what carries the hereditary material. For instance, now I have a small nose. It's the same with my mom. It means that this my small nose is a trait that is inside where my DNA, right? So this chromosome is this. This is the chromosome, for instance. This is the chromosome. This chromosome is what carries my DNA. And any traits that I exhibit, my nose, my hair, my ear, the shape of my ear, any trait I exhibit is what is in what? My DNA. So this is my chromosome, for instance, right? Inside this my chromosome now is my DNA. This my DNA now is what carries every trait, all my traits that I have as a human being. My DNA carries it. And this DNA is inside where? The chromosome. Remember that this nucleus, this is the way the nucleus is, something like this. Inside the cell, let's assume that this is a cell now. This is a cell wall. The first one, cell wall, cell membrane. This place now is the nucleus that controls the life and carries the hereditary material. So it means that even the chromosome, this chromosome now is also inside the what? The nucleus. That's what it means. From the explanation that nucleus controls life and it carries the DNA, the hereditary material. Now this chromosome now is what houses it. Nucleus is responsible for life, right? This is the reason why there is life in the cell, right? Now chromosome carries the DNA, which means that if the nucleus is responsible for life and it also stores, that means it stores means that if that thing is inside there, is keeping it safe, it stores genetic material. It means that this cell now that has a nucleus, the nucleus now, this chromosome is also going to be inside this nucleus that carries the DNA. Let me break it down. This is a cell, right? Let me draw it from the beginning so that you can see it. If this is a cell, let's assume this is a cell. This is the cell wall. The job of this cell wall is to protect the cell from damage. Cell wall, let me note it here. Cell wall protects the cell and its organelles. The cell and its organelles from damage. So if this is a cell, this is a cell wall. Inside this cell now is a nucleus, right? Now inside this nucleus is going to be the chromosome that now carries the DNA. Now this nucleus now controls life in the cell. It carries genetic material or DNA, and this genetic material is inside the what? Chromosome. So it means that this is a chromosome that has DNA, and the chromosome and the DNA are also what? Inside the what? Nucleus. The next one, I'm sure we have written this down, so I'm wiping it, right, so that we can have more space. Don't worry, even if you don't grab it now, grabs it rather, I will do what? I'm going to send the image to the group chat so that we can all have it. The next is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the energy house. The energy house of the cell. Energy house of the cell. The energy or the powerhouse of the cell. The powerhouse or the energy house of the cell is a site for respiration. It's a site where, or for respiration. Remember, I told you that respiration is the breakdown of food, either in the presence or absence of oxygen. So this is where it occurs, mitochondria. In the cell, oh, so if this is a cell, let's assume that this thing is the mitochondria. This is the energy house or the powerhouse of the cell, where respiration occurs. It means that the breakdown of substances or food substances in the presence of what? Oxygen or absence of it. This is the mitochondria, where respiration occurs in the cell. Oh, in the cell, respiration occurs in the what? Mitochondria. In the cell, respiration occurs in the what? Mitochondria. You can say a question in JAMB. In what organelle of the cell does respiration occur? Respiration occurs in the what? Mitochondria. The next one is the vacuolus for food. Storage of food, basically. So the vacuolus basically does what? The vacuolus basically carry out storage, right? And it also contains cell sap. So this vacuole contains cell sap, which acts as an osmoregulator by removing excess water. So means that this vacuolus contains cell sap, which the vacuolus it also acts as storage. Yes, I cleaned it out. So in case of you see a question in JAMB, what organelle is responsible for storage in the cell? Is the vacuolus. So aside storage, it contains a cell sap that acts as a regulator. That's an also regulator means that it regulates water. So it helps in the removal of excess water from the cell. Another organelle we'll consider is going to be, I already talked about the nucleus, right? Endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. So the endoplasmic reticulum, it aids in transport of materials within the cytoplasm. Now remember that I told us that cytoplasm, if this is a cell, for instance, this is the nucleus of the cell, right? Then this place, the space in which those organelles they stay, just like this now is a cell. This is a cell. All these spaces where other organelles is going to be is the cytoplasm. So this endoplasmic reticulum is also called ER. What it does is that it transports materials within this cytoplasm. So the next thing we are going to talk about is the nucleus. The nucleus, yes, it produces ribosome for protein synthesis. That means this nucleus is what is responsible for the production of ribosome, and the ribosome is necessary for protein synthesis. So your body is able to synthesize protein because it contains ribosome. So let's look at the ribosome. Ribosome, basically the synthesis of protein. It's responsible for the synthesis of protein. Anything that has to do with protein in your body is in the cell, is the ribosome, right? So I think you must have copied it down. So I'm taking it off so we can look at other organelles in the cell. Although I write on this part of the board, if you can see. Okay. Let's use it then. I already told us about the cell wall. Now the cell wall protects the cell from damage. Cell wall protects the cell and its organelles from damage. Then the next is we have the Golgi body. GOLGIBODIES, Golgi bodies, right? Golgi bodies or Golgi apparatus. So Golgi bodies or apparatus or Golgi apparatus or Golgi, sorry, let me write it again. So the cell will protect the cell from damage, right? So we have the Golgi body, GOLGI, Golgi body or Golgi apparatus. So what it does is that Golgi apparatus is that they are involved in synthesis and packaging. So what it means that in the cell, just like we have the way you package things, maybe you want to go and deliver something, exactly. Maybe you want to go and deliver something out to your customer. The way you package the way you package it, the way you do the package, you will say we have 1.5 package, we have 2.5. The way you package it, that is the way the Golgi body or the Golgi apparatus will package materials in the cell. So it packages it. After it packages it, then it packaged this. then another organelle will now do what? Send it out. So basically what this Golgi body does is that anything that involves in packaging in the cell, the Golgi body comes and do what? Package it. And it's also involved in synthesis too. So we go over to oh, I think you can see beneath, right? We go over to the cell membrane. Talk about cell wall here. Should I write cell membrane? No. Let me write it down. Cell membrane. The cell membrane selects material that will be absorbed in the cell. Any material that will be absorbed in the cell is done by the cell membrane. Then we have, I don't know if you can see beneath, so I have to clean here so that I can write the remaining ones here, right? About 2 is left. 2 is left. I think you can see, right? So the next one is the lysosome. Lysosomes, lysosome. So the lysosome is the site for respiratory enzyme. Remember that I told us that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and is a site for respiration. It means that respiration occurs in the cell because of mitochondria. So what this lysosome does, let's say it assists the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is responsible for the respiration, which is the powerhouse of the cell. This lysosome is what releases the enzyme. So the enzyme that enables the mitochondria comes from the what? The lysosome. It means that you see every organelle that is contained in the cell has a specific responsibility, and the cell cannot function if all these organelles rather are missing. So that is what the lysosome does. The next one we are going to be talking about is the centroids. CENTRIOELS. The centroid. They play a role in cell division. Remember when we're talking about cell division, about prophase, anaphase, metaphase, these centroids, where you see that they will tell you that the chromosome will come here. The chromosome will come here. These centroids that in the cell, they play a role in cell division. Then we have the starch granules. Starch. They store storage of starch in the cell. So these are all the organelles that are contained in the cell. Organelles that are contained in the cell. We talked about the nucleus, and I said that the nucleus does what? The nucleus is responsible for life activities, and it houses the hereditary material, which is DNA. And I said that now, if the nucleus houses DNA, say if the nucleus, which is this, carries the DNA, so let's say this is the nucleus and the DNA is inside, it means that inside this nucleus now is the what again? Is the chromosome, because the chromosome is what carries genetic material and the nucleus is what houses them. So this nucleus responsible for life and carries the hereditary material. The chromosome carries what? The DNA, which is responsible for hereditary. And we've talked about every organelle that is contained in the cell. So write them down, go back to them, read them and understand them. I'm going to send the diagram of them to the group chat so that we can see them as they are, because sometimes in JAMB they can just make a diagram and ask you what is this, so for you to see them and understand them. So this is what the organized in the cell looks like. So if you have any question, I'm open to your questions. All you have to do is take note of them and then bring it up. I'm going to answer your question. With this, we've come to the end of this part of the class. Thank you so much. And remember to keep your question coming. I'm going to send you a mock biology based on what we've discussed. And I hope that we understood it enough for us to do well with the mock. Thank you so much. I think I'm done with the first video. Wow.